the best podcast for sports entertainment enthusiasts. This is Whacked Out Wrestling. Hello, everybody. This is a big week of wrestling as we get closer and closer to June 8th and the big event at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island next week. I am your host, Thomas S.K. Green. With me, as always, is John Roche. And you apparently can't have a podcast this week without a Moxley, so we have Prince Moxley Lopez.
Hey.
Ass.
Yes. Well, that's one of the things that was big on this one, because if you haven't been living under a rock this week, Double or Nothing happened, and they got their shot heard round the world.
I showed up.
Yes. You weren't the guy that Reddit claimed shit his pants in the crowd, were you?
Maybe.
Lord. Wait.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yes. Which is more proof that we're just as big as Raja.com in that case, so.
Because I don't think John Moxley has Prince before his name like I do. I'm royalty, damn it.
Well, there is the question mark there on it, but it was a big thing, and we can go into all of this Double or Nothing results before, but just as much as what happened there, we have all the things that led John Moxley to leave for AEW, and apparently also for New Japan Pro Wrestling. However, all signs say in the New Japan case, it's the same as Chris Jericho or Kenny Omega, where you can work New Japan, but AEW is his top priority.
Right.
Which is pretty much a good thing on it, because at least if you're going to sell this guy as a knife pervert, it works better than when you make Switchblade the knife pervert, because I can absolutely buy John Moxley as a knife pervert both in and out of the ring. At least that's the difference, where with Jay White, you can't believe that he's anything more than just an emo kid. But John Moxley, that dude's a knife pervert. And then you go through the next plans, as he's apparently facing Juice Robinson for the IWGP US title. Whether Moxley wins or not, I just want to hear the promos in that battle. They're going to be beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to be a question who swears more in their promos between Moxley or Robinson. Though, judging by WWE on it, there is the chance that Ambrose may not go balls deep in any Japanese girls, so there is that question.
He's married, sir.
Mm-hmm.
He's married.
I don't know. Renee Young seems like she'd be pretty cool with it, so.
Oh, sweet Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, as Granny always reminds us and reminds me constantly, you cannot go off the rails if there never were rails.
Exactly. Yes. Whacked Out Wrestling, the shock jock version of wrestling podcasts. But
it took us all of a minute and a half to get in some.
This is the problem if we go terrestrial on this one. We won't be able to say Gillette, the best that men can be anymore.
Yeah. Although we probably will have people calling into random news shows saying, Joey the Caveman, Joey the Caveman, Joey the Caveman.
Well, of course.
Oh, God.
Well, it's always the question on those ones where if we do that one, we have to call Howard Stern shows and yell, Larry King, instead.
Oh, of course.
Oh, God. What the what did I sign up for?
Yes. But going into all this stuff, as we saw, no matter what you saw on Double or Nothing, the bigger news was the Talk is Jericho highlights. And just some of the things that Moxley said were amazing. He knew he wanted to leave the company in July 2018 when he was out with an injury, which makes sense because Ambrose did say at the time that he nearly died during that injury, so you can absolutely see you'd want to go with something different there.
Yeah. And not to cut you off with when you're going through the bullet points of it, this was actually recorded in Dean's house, John's house, before Double or Nothing.
Yeah, and that makes some
Because that's a big sticking point to me.
yeah,
It was done in his house, and it was done before he showed up in Double or Nothing. Okay, sorry.
yeah.
That's a
No,
big.
it makes
It's
more
pretty
sense
amazing.
that way because if they do, that just says that it's not just he's doing it to roast the new company and stuff like that. And that's probably good for AEW as a whole because too much of I got ruined up north, but here in AEW, that's where wrestling matters, and I can be a real superstar, is what killed TNA ultimately. And you need to make it clear that, on the one hand, Jon Moxley is one of those people where they'd say, oh, bullshit, you were ruined up north. The Shield ran WWE's for the better part of this decade. And that's something that people forget about, that unequivocally, if you think about the best wrestlers of the 2010s, the top three are going to be Ambrose, Rollins, and Reigns. There's no question about that. So that also has to change things and that says how big the Moxley signing was, because this is on par with WCW getting Scott Hall or Kevin Nash in 1996. This was one of the biggest names in WWE jumping ship to go to the rival.
I really appreciate such high praise, man. I really do. Like that's.
Well, that's all how big it is on this one, because ultimately people can't know on it, because for the most of the 21st century, it's like pro wrestling fans aren't aware of how good something is in the now, because they're all so busy whining about how good it could be, that sometimes you have to pay attention to how good things are right now. And that really,
and not be so detailed or sidetracked by a little thing here or there that wasn't quite like. Focus on the good, man.
yeah.
And that's wrestling. That's like okay, this little thing wasn't, and literally a little thing wasn't that big.
Mhm.
But look at all the good shit.
Yeah, ultimately that's the biggest problem where it goes through, that wrestling fans are fickle. They have a what have you done for me lately attitude. And it's like we have stuff where you can have the best WrestleMania of years where everything you could want happens. And then if the guy you like loses on main event the next night, it's like none of it matters. And that's
How and I don't mean to keep cutting you off. If I have a new headset, if it keeps cutting out, I'll just go straight speaker. How many years? 4 years did we hear? WrestleMania will be better if Roman doesn't main event. WrestleMania will be better if the women main event. Mostly WrestleMania would be better if Roman didn't main event.
Mhm.
Roman didn't main event, and instead of like, hey, you got your wishes, motherfuckers. Roman didn't main event. The women main evented.
Mhm.
No, let's still nitpick.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's ultimately the big thing on it, where sometimes you have to know that the bigger picture matters more than anything. It's like what Wade Barrett said in 2010. The bigger picture matters.
Bad news intensifies.
Yes.
It's like I said, I think a few weeks ago, a lot of the fans, Vince could you could give them free hot fudge sundaes, and they'd complain about the brand of hot sauce, or rather hot chocolate. Sorry.
Exactly.
I was about to say, like, because my son does eat hot sauce on his on his desserts. But there were literally people like, as soon as they get Roman Reigns out of the WrestleMania main event, I'll watch a WrestleMania. Roman Reigns wasn't in the main event, and if they ever put women in the WrestleMania main event, I'll watch WrestleMania. The same people, like, no, because this or this or like Charlotte shouldn't be in the match or Asuka shouldn't have lost. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah,
it's one or the other. Like, Roman wasn't in the main event. You said you'd watch. Oh, now you're going to find this excuse. Or the women main event, and you're still not going to watch because you found this little excuse.
yeah.
Come on, people. Be positive.
That's really one of the overarching things about the Asuka versus Becky Lynch thing, because if Asuka won that match, people would whine, but Becky Lynch needs to look special at WrestleMania. This is her moment. And if Charlotte wins in this case, it's, but Asuka needed to be in the main event because she was the SmackDown champion. And ultimately, that's the overarching theory. If you're angry about something in your pro wrestling or any entertainment, ask yourself, if the exact opposite thing
What are you doing with your
would,
life?
no, if the exact opposite thing happened, would I be just as complaining and just as whining that this didn't happen in it? And that's a likely case for in this one. And if you
And if
know,
your answer is yes, you're just a miserable person.
yeah, if the answer is yes, shut the hell up, you spoiled, entitled baby. Because ultimately that just goes to, yes, you're a miserable person. You won't be happy unless they hand you personally the book where you get full creative control, full power to hire and fire, regular blowjobs from your favorite woman in the WWE or man, if that's
I was going to include them too. Like, we
yeah.
have some.
You won't be happy unless you get everything you want. And if you did, you'd find something to complain about there too.
I was going to say, even then, it's not enough for those type of people. Even then, you can give them everything.
Yeah, and ultimately, that's the problem where a lot of the problems are that happy people don't complain and they get quiet once they say, thank you, God, for this. But ultimately, people have always gotten on me on cage side seats because I tend to monolith a lot. To the main people, to WWE, to AEW, to all these companies, we are a monolith. And if we don't shut down these people complaining, that monolith sounds like these people are only truly happy when they have something to complain about. So let's just do it the way we want to, and they'll have plenty of things to complain about, and then they'll be truly happy. And ultimately, that's the bigger problem on it, where part of wanting something is you've got to follow through with it.
And they say WWE doesn't think of what the fans.
Exactly. Continuing on the stuff that Moxley said in these ones. He refused to read some scripted promos because he believed it was idiotic and ridiculous, while Vince believed it was great, which Captain Obvious here. Pretty much all the signs are that Vince McMahon micromanages. He writes the show again and again, over and over again, and it just ruins the whole show of it anyway. And that just makes perfect sense because, honestly, we know that. We basically know that the whole problem is that Vince still thinks he's on his fingers on the pulse of the pop culture in 2019 when it wasn't on the pulse of pop culture. It wasn't on the pulse of pop culture since the 1980s. Heck, even in the Attitude Era, he managed to get into that one because Vince Russo's finger was on the pulse of pop culture at the time. It didn't take, but it was still there. Thoughts?
I actually agree, and I was going to bring up like a slightly more recent example of the whole thing with like the Paul Burchill thing where they had him as a Jack Sparrow type character, and apparently it wound up getting canned because Vince hadn't seen or heard of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things. It was even the same in the 1999 where you had them making the Blonde Bitch project over the Blair Witch Project, and they dropped that one because Vince hadn't seen the movie, so he assumed no one had. For those of you younger people who weren't around in 1999, the Blair Witch Project was a relatively big movie at the time.
You don't say.
Yeah.
How do you do, fellow kids?
hmm
Oh shit.
But then you have he talked
Shoot.
about all his promos he read while his feud with Seth happened late last year and early this year, and how they made no sense. He tried to rewrite them, and he got frustrated when he couldn't, which makes a lot of sense from everything else we've said, where ultimately this is going to say how bad that Rollins-Ambrose feud was. They lost a top superstar because that feud was terrible. And that just goes for how bad things can be on it. That cannot be stressed enough. They lost one of their biggest stars because they couldn't make a feud that was a slam dunk work well. Are you kidding me?
And if you thought the one line you had about karma was bad,
Yes.
it was very nearly worse.
Yes. He already thought that promo talking about Roman's cancer was distasteful, like everyone else did.
Right.
But Vince tried to talk him into saying,
Because he had
yep. And Vince tried to talk him into saying another cancer remark about Roman, says it was so bad they could have lost sponsors over it, and refused to say it on it. Wouldn't even say it on the podcast in question. And that was a very big question mark anyway, because we already know that Make-A-Wish and Susan B. G. Komen are two very big sponsors for WWE. Whether or not you think that Susan G. Komen should be a sponsor on them, or you think that they're a load of crap, they're a very big sponsor and probably give money to WWE. So if you're saying something that bad, it's going to be a big deal. And how do you do stuff like that where it's just the point is to go through, lose sponsors just for a throwaway line that won't make people hate Ambrose that much more? Thoughts?
Oh, I absolutely agree that it would have been awful if they had, like, I mean, the idea that they even considered the line was, and the promo we got, let's make no mistake here, as Tom said, it was awful enough on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if it's like that bad as it is, and there was a worse possible version of it that, like, John Moxley didn't even want to say on Talk Is Jericho, let alone Raw, that is saying a whole hell of a lot. Like, it's really all I have. It's basically like the mind boggles as to how bad it could possibly be.
Yes. And it does show with how bad most of the stuff was. Like him saying the day he knew he was leaving and wasn't coming back was the Raw they decided to give him shots and get him vaccinated during a promo. Which, given how bad that promo was, no one can blame Dean Ambrose for that. And ultimately, it continues where even if there was no other promotion than WWE would have left. He wanted to return to wrestling, but not WWE when he was injured. And even when Moxley was open with his frustrations, Vince had no clue he was unhappy. So it seems like there was those ones. I still don't get some of the things of Tony Khan being the opposite of Vince yet, because it's been one show, so we can't really know. People may have thought Dixie Carter was great after one or two shows as well in TNA, and look what happened there.
Right. Like, and the thing is that it's like, it depends a lot on how they decide to differentiate themselves from WWE. Like, if they keep like throwing in little jabs at WWE, they're probably going to have the same issues that Impact had, where they don't really have anything other than we're not WWE. And
Yeah,
basically, it's the same, like just like in politics with professional wrestling, you have to actually have something to offer the public in order to have a chance of competing with the incumbent. You can't just say, I'm not this guy. You have to say, okay, we have one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. We have one of the two men in the first and only 7-star match that, like, the only match that Dave Meltzer has rated 7 stars. The man who broke the star rating. We have Chris Jericho. We have the Young Bucks, one of the hottest tag teams on the Indies. We have Aja Kong. We have Awesome Kong, and quite frankly, I cannot wait for them to team up again, because they in Japan they teamed up as the Double Kongs, and or in Hustle they teamed up as Erica in the case of Aja Kong and Margaret in the case of Awesome Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a bit out of character for them, but they did win the tag team championships in Hustle, so they had that going for them, which is nice.
Plus, it was Hustle, so everything's out of character there. So
yeah,
but yeah, ultimately it is a case where the big thing that'll ruin AEW would be being like John Kerry wrestling that TNA had always been, where it's like, we're not WWE, cheer us. And it's like, you have most of the...
Damien Sandow says hello.
What?
Damien Sandow says hello.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And that was one of the problems on it.
Everybody just knew if he could get away from WWE, he was going to be a superstar.
Yes.
How did that turn out?
Yeah, and ultimately, even Damien Sandow wouldn't be the good one on it, because even with Sandow, people ultimately knew that he was kind of crappy in the ring. You knew that was part of the Damien Sandow experience there, so it wasn't like it was there.
And you and
no, this is actual experience.
You're never dropping the experience thing, are you?
Well, this is an actual experience thing. This is like a tag team cute nickname thing.
Yeah, this is more like, if you're getting Damien Sandow, there's some things you've got to expect from him. You don't expect 5-star matches from him. You expect a pretty solid wrestler who's kind of charismatic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A bigger problem would be guys like Shannon Moore and Doug Basham, who in the 2000s, everybody said, well, yeah, Shannon Moore is a kind of crappy cruiserweight. Doug Basham's a generic brawler who's just garden variety. But they're so good outside of them. Did you see him in WCW for Shannon Moore? Did you see him in OVW for Doug Basham? If they weren't being handcuffed by the WWE style, they'd be the best wrestler in the world. They need to be freed so they can be good wrestlers. And then both guys went to TNA, who are wrestling, and Shannon Moore was an okay X-Divisioner. Not great, nothing to write home about at least, but he was just solid. And Doug Basham was a pretty generic brawler.
I think they even teamed him up with Damaja at that time.
Yeah, it was basically the same thing. They were, for all intents and purposes, the Basham brothers, just in a different ring. So it was worse on those ones than even Damien Sandow, because it was like, it's not just they're good wrestlers who we want to see in it, but yeah, they're bad wrestlers, but they'd be really good in this other promotion. And that's
right. They are better examples, but Sandow was more recent in my bank of all the screaming and the hollering on the internet of, he's so charismatic, he's so great, if they would just write him properly and give him this and give, and yeah.
Work out.
Hell, the worst part about it is that Damien Sandow would probably be great for AEW. Like, You don't think that
yeah.
the Young Bucks would love to say the Young Bucks versus the Rhodes Dynasty, but the Young Bucks are going to have special guest stunt double Damien Buckdow.
Oh, it would absolutely work.
Yeah,
Because Damien, Aaron, his shoot name, he does have charisma.
yeah,
He
Oh, yeah,
does have that going for him.
Anyone
He
who
can't.
pulls out the handles Messiah has to have charisma.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that would also help on it, even though there is the weakness from these that we're saying his name wrong because it's Aaron Rex.
Oh God, why? Oh, you son of a bitch. But my point being, you can't go to the anti WWE promo too often. First and foremost, you just can't do it too often. B, if you do, back that shit up.
Yeah,
You can't show up on TNA as Aaron Rex and shit all over WWE and then shit the bed in your performance. And pretty much a couple months later get released by TNA because, yeah.
yeah. Well, even then, that's one thing that seems to be a plus with what AEW's done with their cast-offs on this one. Like, they give Jon Moxley the big debut and make him a huge deal because, come on, you just got Dean Ambrose. Of course he'd be a main eventer there. And then you go to the battle. Then you go to the Battle Royal and you throw Shawn Spears into the Battle Royal, and he's solid, but it's not a star-making performance. He did.
It definitely wasn't a 10.
Yeah. He just
For
did.
those that don't know, Shawn Spears is Ty Dillinger.
Yes.
Right.
But that's one of the good things on it because Shawn Spears could give a benefit to AEW as a good carpenter to help make their lower card there. But if you're making Ty Dillinger a main event player, you probably messed up somewhere.
Yeah, you get it. Yep, that's exactly pretty much what I was getting at of Ty Dillinger being in the pre-show battle royal under Shawn Spears, obviously, is pretty much where he belongs.
Yeah.
He should have been like flipped the roles, is, oh my God, Ty Dillinger is in AEW and he just beat the shit out of Jericho and Omega. That role is not working for Shawn Spears.
Yeah.
FKA Ty Dillinger.
At the same time, you have stuff like they use Spears and he's like a very good mid-carder like all of them. And then you have, oh my God, Dustin Thomas eliminated Ty Dillinger. And all of a sudden, Dustin Thomas looks like someone who's a threat.
Yes.
And that's a pretty good thing to use too. I don't want to see Shawn Spears fighting Kenny Omega right now, but I'd love to see Shawn Spears fighting Jungle Boy or fighting Sonny Kiss or one of the low-level guys there just to try and make those guys.
I'm giving you a thumbs up like you can see what I'm doing, but we are on the exact same page.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Because ultimately you need someone like that who's willing to be in the lower card and say, who's that guy over there? I'll make him. Who's that other guy? I'll make him. And just go like that.
There's two ways to go about name recognition and visibility from being in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little more complex than cut and dry. Mm-hmm. And they did two things here. There's other people that have been in, but with the Moxley thing and with the Shawn Spears, Ty Dillinger thing, they did both of those fine, perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Jon Moxley is a fucking superstar.
Yeah.
Registered trademark WWE, whatever. Shawn Spears was considered, because they call everybody superstars. Mm-hmm. But like you're saying, they put him in a spot where, holy shit, that's Ty Dillinger. Mm-hmm. But he's not the focal point. Now, who's this guy? I don't know this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the back, yeah, am I making sense? I know I'm rambling a little bit, but
Yeah, it
yeah,
makes perfect sense on it because ultimately that's how it does. And one thing I'll give the just from the two shows we've seen the Elite doing so far, the Elite have revolutionized how to book a battle royal. There's no nice way to say on that one. They've completely changed the whole dynamic of how to make a battle royal for
do
the
you mean wait? Pump the brakes. 50 people in the middle of the desert in Saudi Arabia is not the way to go about it.
No, because ultimately
All right,
the big thing that's so great about a elite battle
here,
royal, both all in and
here's my shock face.
yeah, you think about it where most times whenever you watch battle royals, and this is every company on this one, the swarm was, yeah, there's a lot of guys here who are superfluous. They're not doing anything. You know they're not doing anything. They're warm bodies to make it look good
Yes,
and just keep bumps to go out. That's basically how battle royals have always been. That's why most people don't even rate battle royals for the most part.
right.
But the all AEW and the elite style is perfect because it's just simple. Every wrestler in the battle royal gets one good spot. That's
And
all.
here's my nitpick.
Yeah.
Here's my nitpick because they have done it both times, all in and double or nothing. All in wasn't quite as bad as double or nothing. Here's my nitpick. One of my few nitpicks that aren't swaying my overall grade. Did you actually watch Double
I
or Nothing?
I watched most of Double or Nothing. Yes.
Okay. Um, the because everybody did, every single person got their at least their spot, one spot. There were several times when their spot was happening that the camera cut to something else.
Yes. 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 That was one of the things that I noticed on it, and it was worse for some of the people who got their spot in those moments. Like the worst part on it was when they had the next people coming into the battle royal just as Private Party got their spot, and
Yes,
that was ultimately the cameramen should be ashamed of themselves for that one because Private Party were probably the least well-known guys in AEW right now. You
give the,
absolutely
yes,
had to make their spot matter to
yes.
show people, wait, these Private Party guys are pretty good. We should really take notice of them. And that's
On
something that AEW had to do on this one, where
yes, that I just didn't. Uh, oh, and it was more than once. It almost became a recurring thing throughout the battle royal. Again, it wasn't as bad as All In. Well, actually, it was worse than All In. All
yeah,
In didn't cut so much. This one, like it seemed like every time something, and you knew the people going in. Just like and pretty much like you were saying earlier about any battle royal, they're warm bodies. Um, but this is your first show and these are people signed to you or at least going to be coming back from time to time. If you're going to give them their spot, which they did for everybody, fucking have the camera on them.
yeah. And even if you do, just look at the list on it, and you see why I'd say the worst part was the Private Party situation. Because
Yeah,
just
you're
look
right.
at the people in this match. You have Adam Page. If you're in AEW, you know this guy. Dustin Thomas. He's relatively unknown, but he got some buzz from the Tony Deppen spot at GCW, so it's possible you could know about that guy. Plus, the he has no legs and he's wrestling like that thing is going to be big anyway.
Yes.
MJF, if you're not an MLW fan, you'll probably know him from being the Elite, so you know that guy. Sunny Days, relatively unknown. Brandon Cutler, if you know being the Elite, you know that guy, but ultimately unknown there. Michael Nakazawa, it's possible you know him if you really follow DDT, and a lot of AEW fans probably do because Omega did come up from there. Jimmy Havoc, you can't if either you're an MLW fan and heard of him or you're a fan of Progress and you've heard of him. Joey Janela, everyone knows. Brian Pillman Jr., worked MLW. You probably know him. Sean Spears, yeah, Billy Gunn, yeah, Glacier, yeah, Jungle Boy. Relatively unknown, but he's gotten a lot of buzz from being the Elite, and he's been catching fire since his AEW signing, so people might know him. Also, the fact that
Do you want to give a reference to his dad
yes,
for those that don't know?
if you don't know those ones, then you know the fact that he's the son of Hunky Luke Perry, which brings into this one, and this show is dedicated to Ambrose Alley's father, who passed away this week. You have Ace Romero, who has been getting a little bit of buzz there. You'd know that one. You have Luchasaurus, who's been in Lucha Underground. You could know him. Marco Stunt was all in. You'd know him. Sonny Kiss, Lucha Underground. You know him. Tommy Dreamer. Yeah.
Who?
I think that one guy who was I think he was Starfire, because I heard he did a lot of stuff with Raven.
Sir, great. If I could wreck that, I would right now.
Yes.
Great reference.
Well, it is possible, because I think he also did some work with the Austin Star, so.
Yes.
Oh, good God. Good God.
And then Orange Cassidy. Relatively obscure, but if you know the indie scene, you probably are aware of Orange Cassidy by now. So,
or if you've been to the mall, you might have seen one of them here and there.
Yes.
Oh, sir. Damn it.
I don't know. I don't think he works with Stephanie McMahon that much, so.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. But ultimately, if you look at that list, the people you absolutely have to make sure look good on this one would be the Private Party guys, Jungle Boy, Sunny Days, and maybe Ace Romero or Michael Nakazawa. Make sure those guys look better going out of this battle royal than they did coming in, and you did things well.
Right. In Ace's defense, I don't want to say pretty well known, but New Japan, and there's going to be a crossover here of New Japan fans and AEW fans, obviously, if nothing for no other reason of look who's running the company and anti-WWE stuff.
Right.
Ace, I could see people probably he's not quite and I'm don't want to do an impersonation of you, but he's not quite but he's up there of even if you don't watch New Japan, the name circulates. So
yeah. Well, that can also be a question mark. Just personally, I've seen Ace Romero live and wasn't particularly a fan of him when I saw it, so it can be a plus or minus.
Romero agree. Yes,
in this battle royal than he did when I saw him live, so that's also a good thing in his benefit.
Question: when did you see him live?
At an XWA show, which was always a question mark because they run on Thursday nights, and it's had to go once it went to 9 p.m. So I couldn't go to them more often.
Okay.
But they are definitely a good company that's worth checking out. So,
but yeah, that's one of the nitpicks. And yes, it was pre-show, and but the camera cuts.
Yeah, the pre-show stuff would be the question, and ultimately, this is what TNT is going to have to teach them. We saw that with WWE, they learned so much more about production just from their time with Saturday Night's Main Event, and you have to assume that TNT will know how to produce the show. Although WCW had their own question marks too, so
right.
But
even WWE, Kevin Dunn gets a lot of shit for it. But just a few years ago, surprise, AJ Styles is in the Royal Rumble. And they cut to Roman Reigns just standing in the ring.
Yeah, and that's one of the weaknesses on it because, again, AJ Styles is one of those guys who everybody knows, and the second he debuts, it'd be a huge fucking deal. And you have to go with that one.
Yeah.
But that is the big question with the Battle Royal, where they did everything right in it, but the big problem is that for the lesser known guys they should have made it a point that, okay, this is why they're here. You wondered why we signed them. Here's why. And that's got to be a big thing if they're main roster guys for it.
Right.
But ultimately, that went through as the one who got the most eliminations in this was Luchasaurus, and that led to him getting signed by AEW, which is a plus there. You have Adam Page getting the victory, his victory as he last eliminates MJF, which absolutely makes perfect sense because MJF is clearly going to be one of the best guys there. The guy just gets it.
Obligatory fuck MJF.
Yes, in the good way. Like, this is the, yes, absolutely, give this guy all the sex, because this guy deserves it. So, yes, fuck MJF the right way. But,
Pound him in the ass prison.
yes, exactly.
Good lord.
Mm-hmm. But then that was basically the good thing. And it was also the same point that goes to it's just the pre-show proms as well, because they mentioned whoever wins the match is going to get a title shot for the belt. So even if it's a pre-show match, you've made it a plot point. This is going to be a very important match.
Right. They pre-showed the WWE equivalent of Royal Rumble.
Yeah. And so you had to make sure this was big. And that goes to the middle part of the pre-show where you had Alicia was giving a promo to Kylie Ray, which was interrupted by both of the librarians shushing each other, which apparently is the best comedy in all of wrestling history. Heck, it's better than everything. I think I was watching classic Saturday Night Live, classic Mel Brooks movies, all paled in comparison to people shushing each other.
Oh, I don't want
to. Better than Austin Powers did the shushing.
Yes. Yes, this is just.
I'm gonna back full.
Yes.
I'll be right back, fellas.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And going from this one, it's always the weakness when he leaves on it, because it goes to the second pre-show match as we have Sammy Guevara facing Kip Sabian, and this is where you need other people to keep talking about it, because this match was solid, but not the right thing you want to put your best foot forward on for a show, because ultimately this match was just meh. It was solid. It wasn't a bad match. It was just meh.
Yeah. And not really sure if we're going to see either of these guys' faces on a T-shirt anytime soon.
Well, it's not even just that. It's ultimately the fact that it was an example of just a solid match versus character. Like, neither guy could manage to make a simple character go through. And it's not like they have some amazing character you have to know on stuff like that. Kip Sabian's entire character from being the Elite is this guy is a very handsome man and the ladies love him. And Sammy Guevara's character is he's kind of insincere on it and he'll talk crap behind your back. Those aren't exactly hard gimmicks to run with. Those aren't.
Call your office.
Yeah. Those are the type of things you could absolutely do anytime for it, and it won't change anything. Like,
this was a very meh match. Yeah. Like it was.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's one where it's solid. It'll help going, but it's not one of those things you want to go through with your best foot forward as the first singles match in AEW history.
Right. And in my mind, like, okay, do you flip the singles match to be first. You do the battle royal first, because the battle royal was the pre-show was free on YouTube and TNT. And if you tune in at 7 and you see that singles match as their first match, you might turn it off.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense?
If it was up to me, I would have swapped that one in the Best Friends Angelico and Evans match.
Yeah.
Because-
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
If we can just swap main card matches with the pre-show stuff, the
Mhm.
battle royal you keep on the pre-show just because you're trying to get eyeballs to buy the product.
Mhm.
And it had a big stipulation: the winner gets to face the winner of the main event for the first ever AEW championship.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, and that's a good one. The Angelico Jack Evans
Yeah.
tag team match.
Not only that one, the match was awesome, so that's a good thing there. You have something that it's about the same timing as the Sabian Guevara match, and in addition, the Sabian Guevara would be a very good cool down match, and there's always the importance of cool down matches. But
Absolutely.
Best Friends versus Angelico and Evans didn't mean as much as the other matches, but more importantly, you're showing two things there. One, AEW is going to make tag team wrestling important. Two, you're also giving the people who aren't ordering the pay-per-view a taste of what the new rules in AEW tag team matches are going to be.
Right.
And they made a big plot point that instead of a 5 count for tag team interference, you get a 10 count. So that's something that you really should be showing people, and showing it with guys like Best Friends and Angelico and Evans, who are good at double team moves, would show people, you like double team moves, you're going to love AEW.
Quote unquote, we're different.
Yep.
Show it.
Exactly.
And as much as I don't like Beretta or Chuck E. T, collectively known as Best Friends, I absolutely agree. Yeah, and if nothing else, and again, the scale of recognizable names, I'm not sure. I know all 4 of these guys. Jack Evans actually follows me on Twitter. I started a Jack Evans for President thing a couple of years ago.
I don't know if this man is presidency worthy, but
this was Lucha Underground season 2. Whenever I started, and he picked up on it, and we've had conversations. Anyway, there are at least more recognizable names, and it's a different match, and it's different to tag team wrestling that you're accustomed to in, say, WWE. It would serve a whole lot more purposes to put that match on the pre-show and put the match that was on the pre-show as a cool-down match on the main card.
Yeah, especially since there wasn't that many singles matches that were just one-on-one on the whole card as well. So, yeah,
there's also that.
Rid of the WrestleMania 2000 problem.
And Toronto just knocks off Golden State, by the way.
Yes. But then from there you go to the 6-man tag of, as AEW proves their complete originality by having that guy from WCW and 2 of his friends from New Japan taking on one half of the Los Conquistadores, that guy who was on Velocity all the time in 2005, and Harold. But yeah, ultimately, it was one of those where you knew it was probably going to be good, and it was one of the decent ones there as well. The only question mark was putting T-Hawk and El Lindaman, because if you knew Dragon Gate, you probably knew of those guys anyway, and since everyone's excited about OWE as holy crap, SEMA trained a bunch of Shaolin monks to wrestle, having OWE guys and not just T-Hawk and El Lindaman could have helped make that so much more amazing.
Oh yeah,
I love T-Hawk. And this goes back to match order. This was a weird placement for your first event show opener.
Hmm.
This was very, very.
Well, they had to show how different they'd be from WWE. I mean, Harold was trained by Dr. Shelby for anger management, but it didn't work because this was the worst town he'd ever been in.
Yes.
Mhm.
I would have. And I wouldn't want to say anything because we'll get to it later. But some matches on the card should have been later, like they were. There's one match in particular that I would have put as the curtain jerker match, the opener, over this one. This one, your first show and openers being openers, decent match. Just it fell kind of flat for me.
Well, that also ties into how this is a lot of nitpicking as well, because
Oh yeah, absolutely.
this card was incredibly strong. There's no way around it. Where
Yeah,
the term main event anywhere in the country is in spades for most of this card.
right.
So if it's just curtain jerking, you can't. You also have to know how strong it is, and ultimately there is a lot of it is no matter how strong you are and how many everybody should be main event. Somebody still has to be in the first match, or there is no main event.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is a good example of it, where it was a very good match. It's one of those where something had to be first, and this was a pretty good one because you knew they were going to fly around. They were going to get the best foot forward for AEW.
But see, and you get it just like I do. My nitpicks aren't swaying my overall impression of the show. Just little nitpicks, just little.
And ultimately, this is a good thing. Like, this is the equivalent to TNA's first match of just have a great X Division match to show everybody what it's all about. Except that they didn't have Strong Hearts dress up as Elvis impersonators. But it is a good example of this. It's got a little bit of nitpick, but this almost feels right to be the first match on the card. So, and from there you have another big one as the women's match goes through as Dr. Britt Baker faces Nyla Rose and Kylie Ray, and Brandy Rhodes shows up and declares they got Awesome Kong as well. And Roche has talked about his benefit of having Awesome Kong and getting Aja Kong for that team to go through. But honestly, I'll say that I wasn't a big fan of bringing Awesome Kong in. There is the question of whether she's a head case, which has ruined many of her previous runs in TNA and even WWE before. If she's still a head case, you're ruining a lot of the problems of the backstage that they need. And if she's not a head case, if Aja Kong can keep her under wraps and make sure she's good on this one, then honestly, it's still a bad move. Build around Nyla Rose as your monstrous heel, and you have a true homegrown star. And that's something they'll be very valuable to AEW going forward, is to make some homegrown talent. So
that was one of the best things about TNA was that they had some guys who were at least close to being homegrown at first.
Yeah, and that's one.
They had.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize my mic was still on mute. I'm pretty sure Awesome Kong was more of a one-off.
Yeah, ultimately, it's still the case where one of the good things about the AEW women is that a lot of them are relative unknowns. Like, if Britt Baker is the most well-known woman you have, and Allie is the most well-known woman you have, you're doing pretty well about getting unknown talent there.
Did you hear the pop Awesome Kong got?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah. That was honestly surprising on this one because it had been a while since Kong had been on a national scale.
And outside of Netflix originals.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was even more surprising that it's not a hot take, I don't think, to say, Nia Jax is better than Awesome Kong in 2019. Don't at me. Actually, at me. We can use the more controversy equals cash. So
maybe they just really hated Bubba the Love Sponge.
well, who doesn't?
Sure.
Bubba the Love Sponge.
But Awesome Kong that pop was maybe only second to something that happens later.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that took me aback. I was
Yeah.
like, damn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's clear on those ones that they have some benefit on this one. So clearly going with the WWE cast-off sports and them getting karma really helped. Not the karma that Dean Ambrose claimed Roman Reigns had, but a different karma. But
Decent match.
yeah.
I see your point of making Nyla Rose like
Yeah.
a decent match. Served its purpose, I guess.
Yep. It was good to help go with it, and ultimately it's another case where ultimately getting more homegrowns is going to be what's going to build AEW up more.
Right.
Like,
And that goes back to the point of earlier of you can't keep bringing such and such promotion in and relying the homegrown is going to have to start and build from there.
Yeah. And with WCW, it's the same thing with AEW, where when WCW brought Hulk Hogan in and instantly made him a top star, it's, he's Hulk Hogan. Of course he's going to be a big deal. But then when you say that Brutus Beefcake is better than Ric Flair, then you have serious problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's really the case where that's what killed TNA on it, where most of their use of him was anyone who happened in WWE was better than any homegrown. And it was even worse for people like Frankie Kazarian, who were big, good homegrowns in TNA, went to WWE, flamed out, came back, and it was like, okay, now we'll push you. Now you're a WWE guy.
Right.
Now you're better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Who we see later in the show, by the way.
Yeah. So then we
How
have
the fuck do they not age? We'll get there when we get to the match, but holy fuck.
who in question?
Kaz and Christopher Daniels. Like, how?
Honestly, it's just that I think that they feed on the strength of clean living, and by that meaning all the Appletinis pickled Daniels so he can't age.
Plus, he's the fallen angel, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a pretty good Faustian bargain there.
It feels like I've been hearing their names in wrestling for like 50 years. Christopher Daniels more than Kaz, but
right.
Well, even Kaz, his name's been around for 20 years now, and it's oh god, I can watch porn with people who weren't alive for 9/11 this year. I mean, I already did, but now I can legally do it.
holy fuck.
Lord.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. Have a seat over there.
Yeah, and go sit in the corner and think about what you just said.
Yes. But going forward, we did go into the Best Friends versus Angelico and Evans match, and again, same points were set on it, where it was a good match, and like we said, it probably would have been better on the pre-show, but it was definitely a good match there.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to say, if I didn't express it well enough, it would have served a better purpose on the pre-show than where it was on this card. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. It came through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have one of the big surprises of the match, as we had Hikaru Shida, Riho, and Ryo Mizunami defeated and facing Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki, and Emi Sakura. And this was sponsored by our good friend Dan Bauer. Yeah. But seriously on it, it was one of those which was, if they're clearly trying to make the Joshi division help make their women's division different, they serve the purpose here. The only
Oh
question
yeah,
seems like, if it even this is nitpicking, where it's like AEW's commitment to inclusivity probably weakened the whole point of it, because if you switch Mizunami and Sakazaki on the match, then you have the perfect Joshi formula, because Joshi is built around big, angry women you would not want to meet in a dark alley, beating
right.
living crap out of little pretty girls until the pretty girl gets the win. That's 90% of Joshi right there. So switching Sakazaki and Mizunami probably helps both of those do better, but you kind of had to have one of the big angry women on the face side, because that way you can have the, well, we're not fat shaming either. We're
Right.
willing to make a big angry woman a baby face too. So
Right.
but ultimately, it was a good one where you had a very good match, six people putting on excellent performances. Many of them passed the BD3 scale, so it worked. So it worked there as well.
Son of a bitch.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a very enjoyable match. Very enjoyable.
And
Go ahead.
And as said for the BD3 scale, Bauer ain't got shit on me. So
Um, unfortunately pulled up, just in case I couldn't remember off the top of my head, Tuesday on our show, the CBS of all places, it was the first one that came up doing a Google card thing. And there's 3 writers that did this article. They gave this match a D plus. What the fuck?
yeah, because this was a very good match here on it. And
Everything else got A plus, A minus, B plus. I don't even think there was a C in there. This match got a D plus, and to me, this is the 3rd best match pre-show, in the entire card, pre-show or not.
yeah,
This is 3rd on my list of best matches of the night, and it got a D plus.
Interesting note about this, or interesting note about this match. Riho was actually trained by Emi Sakura. So
yeah, I think they did make it a plot point on this one, and Sakura is one of the heads of Ice Ribbon, so which is pretty big on the places where AEW seems to be getting relationships with all the places they could have relationships with, but
Right.
they can't get Stardom because it's clear WWE and Ring of Honor badly want relationships with Stardom. They can't get Sendai Girls because they already have a relationship with WWE. So these are probably the best places that AEW can get relationships with, and it shows that they got some pretty good workers from it.
Yeah, and this kind of it won't be, depends on your definition of homegrown. But some of these promotions they're working with, obviously, if they do it right, could be considered. You didn't hear with this person before.
Yeah, and even if you do that one, that there's so little work outside of Japan that it works on it. I mean, Aja Khan did have a cup of coffee with WWE, and Hikaru Shida did work Shimmer a few times, but it's not like there's such major names you could say they're not homegrowns for AEW. And that's another thing for what constitutes a homegrown. Like, for instance, yeah, if MJF gets really over in AEW, even if he worked in MLW, he's basically an AEW homegrown. Even someone like Sonny Kiss, yes, he was in Lucha Underground, but he was such a low level guy in Lucha Underground. If he does well here, he's basically a homegrown.
Right.
Hey, he was in I think he was wasn't he like a 6-man tag champ at one point?
I think he might have been.
Yeah, the trios.
Yeah, with I believe Ivelisse and Joey Ryan.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense on it. So But yeah, it seems like the 6-woman tag team match, as said, was basically like the Marmite match of the show. You either love it or you hate it. And that goes right to the match that it's impossible not to love. The match that honestly, it's surprising WWE didn't do this well enough to get it.
My match of the night.
And Rhodes. Of course, this was old-fashioned NWA style hatred. This is proof that Cody may not be one of the best moves workers, but the guy can tell a story. Dustin Rhodes bled like he was his father out there. This was just, it was everything you knew should have happened in a WWE ring, but they didn't. They dropped the ball, and AEW picked it up.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually had a comment about one particular GIF on Twitter that basically said, so that's why they call it the Code Red.
Yes. Dustin Rhodes did a huge blade job.
He went way too deep.
He went Muda scale there.
I was about to say, you almost broke the damn Muda scale.
Yeah,
the mass transit scale.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would be the good question on it. Although I think we ignore the fact that Cody killed 4 people as a bounty hunter. So,
damn it!
Well, they had to hide something from AOP when she tweeted about the show. So,
oh god,
that's one of the problems with these ones, where it also says something that this show was good enough it could get people like AOC to tweet about it. Although that was basically about Cody talking about his experiences with Brandy Rhodes teaching him about race. So that's a different story entirely.
But Cody not being the best worker and Dustin being 50, like holy, they tore the house down.
Yes, and honestly, that's one of the cases where Cody's not a good X's and O's worker, but he's a great storyteller.
Yes.
Dustin Rhodes has always been a great worker and storyteller.
Right.
Dustin
is so underrated.
Underrated guy on the best wrestlers to never be the world champion list. And it's worse when you consider the fact that the Royal Rumble where Roman Reigns went 1 versus all was the only time Dustin Rhodes has ever fought for a world championship. And that's even more criminal than just never even winning the big one to me.
Yeah. He was a warm body in a battle royal.
Yeah.
That just happened to be for the championship.
Yeah. And that's almost weirder because it's not enough that he never won the world title. He never even came close and at least had a world title match to his name.
Same thing with Kofi. That was his first singles title match.
Yeah, and that also almost gets weirder for the big names. And honestly, if AEW does give Dustin Rhodes a world title reign, it would be perfectly viable. So
absolutely, and you could see. I'm of 2 minds of it. The quote unquote the old guys or the WWE, but Cody might have a little bit of pull in this t-shirt company or something. I don't know how all that works. But I would absolutely be for eventually. I wouldn't say inaugural, but giving Dustin his ring.
Yeah, because even then, even with old guys, there's a difference between old and timeless. Like, for instance, Hulk Hogan is old now, but for most of his career before Racist Gate, Hulk Hogan was timeless.
Undertaker's just fucking old. Like, he can barely move.
Yeah.
But he has no business being in a championship conversation the year 2019.
Yeah. And that's so weird on it because Undertaker shouldn't be in a world title thing because he's too old to be world champion, but he can still get millions of dollars to wrestle in Saudi Arabia because the Undertaker character is timeless.
Yes, that's where I was trying to get at.
Yeah. And then after the match, that wasn't enough to have a Dusty match, which was bleeding like stuffed pigs and having the crowd on their feet for every bit of it. They also had to have Molten Crowd as they ally with each other. And we have the Rhodes Dynasty versus the Young Bucks at Fyter Fest. Motto, this time hopefully we won't put a sex offender on the show. Yes. But that should be a good one because, again, it says something that Cody Rhodes could have been a world champion in 2013, but Goldust and Cody were so good as a tag team, no one cared that they held Cody back there. That says something about how good that tag team was.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even then, it went to, in just 6 weeks, they turned Goldust from a joke extra character who was always just nice old man
I was trying to do the Goldust
nice
breath.
old man who lives at the WWE into I absolutely buy that dude taking on the Shield and beating them. That is good. And then we go to the only title match on this one, as the AAA World Tag Team titles are on the line, as the Young Bucks take on the Lucha Brothers. And this was what you expect on it. They want tag team wrestling the main event, and they made it a point to do so. Thoughts, Mox?
Yeah. Bucks gonna Bucks.
Yeah.
That's other people that have friends of mine that have kept up with New Japan but haven't watched, and I've run down the card like through text or whatever. Bucks are gonna buck.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what and for those that don't know who Lucha Bros are, that's Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix.
Both
versus
very big in Lucha Underground. I believe that in the case of Pentagon Jr., he was the only Lucha Underground champion to successfully defend his title in an Aztec Warfare match.
Yes.
You are correct.
And that was also a case where just saying they were Lucha Underground guys doesn't hype how big a deal they were. They were the guys that Lucha Underground basically made stars.
Yes. Homegrown talent, if you will.
Exactly. And that was one of the cases where even now they're a good tag team just by teaming up again, but they could do well with them as singles guys. And they'd be...
I really wish they would.
Yeah. Because
for both their sake.
Is basically the same as the WWE main event style of beat the guy to death, then he pops back up like nothing happened and gets a win. And then Pentagon Jr. is the same thing because Cero Miedo is Spanish for never give up. So the government does not want you to know. Pentagon Jr. is John Cena if he broke people's arms for his master. So basically John Cena.
I don't know if John Cena's ever broken anyone's arm, at least not on purpose.
Well, there was the claims Michael Tarver said, so...
Well, I mean, he broke an arm when he asked homegirl at WrestleMania to marry him and then left her ass. Like, that's got it. I'm just a hand or a finger, but sorry. I try keeping up with you guys and your jokes and whatnot, and I know good.
Yes. That's just heartbreaking. A woman had her heart broken in public and was on the things on it. Show some respect there. Gillette, the best that men can be.
They weren't in public. You dragged me into public.
I know.
You caught the tater. Sorry.
And so
I was making a Ron White reference.
Yeah. And then it goes to the match everybody was waiting for. The rematch of the match of the century. The guy from Winnipeg and the guy from Toronto. Or Winnipeg, you idiot. Whatever. Jericho Omega 2. And this one was what you'd expect it to be. You knew Jericho and Omega would put on a good match. This could absolutely be another 5-star match, but it wasn't in the Tokyo Dome, so.
And you know, our friend Brute, he's one of the ones that texted me like, "What about this? What about that?" Mainly about the matches that involved former New Japan people. And before you even asked about this match, Omega Jericho was exactly what you think it would be.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where you basically know it's going to be good going into it, because we know Jericho's skill. We know Omega's skill. We know they work well together, so it's not reinventing the wheel to know it's going to be a very good match.
Went a little longer for my taste. Went almost 30 minutes.
Yeah, but that's kind of the weakness of them still believing that long equals good is the big problem in wrestling right now.
Yeah.
And again, it ultimately goes to the same. Long is only equals good if you're in a glory hole. So,
Sir, God damn it.
yes.
If they would have like shaved up, I think it went 27, something like that. If they would have shaved off like 7 minutes of this, I'd be higher on the match. Like, yeah, it was a good match. It's Omega and Jericho.
Yeah. That's also the problem where a lot of the matches could have had some time shaved off on it, where shaving 7 minutes off of Jericho Omega could work. And you also could have shaved 7 minutes off of the Bucks and Lucha Brothers. And
which was the entire fucking match.
yeah. Well, that also worked because it was 24 minutes, 55 seconds in itself. So
yeah, I was making it.
Yeah. And heck, you could probably even shave off 5 or 6 minutes off of Cody and Dustin and made it even more brutal looking without going too far on it. So there's at least it wasn't as bad as the Okada went rogue thing at All In, because
I was about to bring that up where they had that was a big issue of no, we're time stamped to end here. We have to end here.
Yes. And at least that's a plus with their relationship with Turner, that they weren't time stamped, so they could do a little bit less on that one. So
Right.
So that's ultimately a good thing as well. And then Jericho got the win. So in the future, we'll have Adam Page, Chris Jericho for the title. But then we get the big one.
But real quick before that one, I started bringing this up, talking about the battle royal. As soon as Hangman Adam Page won the battle royal, that foreshadowed who was winning the main event. Anyway.
Yeah, it was also weird because you could buy Omega saying, "I'm putting over Page huge." So,
yeah. When I say foreshadowed, like 99% sure that Jericho was going to go over.
Yeah.
After Page won the battle royal, I just wanted to throw that out there.
It was kind of weird on it because of the final four on this one. If MJF wins the battle royal, he's losing to Omega. He's probably losing to Jericho, but not this one. But there was some weirdness with Page winning, because if Page faced Omega, he's probably beating Omega and winning the title first. Page faces Jericho. I could buy Page beating Jericho, but I could also buy TNT saying, "We want your biggest star as the champion going into TNT. Give Jericho the title."
Yeah.
So,
right.
So both of it could be. I could.
We all know that something changed because we were supposed to get Hangman Adam Page versus Pac, FKA Neville. So when they decided to give Page and I guess vice versa Jericho, this matchup in the wins, like that had to have been all. And we don't know how long they've been planning and how much they had planned of
Mhm.
You know, these are the matches that are happening, and these are going to be the results. We know that's hasn't been discussed anywhere that I know of.
Yeah.
We do know that Hangman Adam Page and Pac was supposed to happen, didn't happen. Hangman Adam Page showed up and won the Battle Royal.
Hmm.
So somewhere
Of it.
there,
Was Page supposed to get the win of the Battle Royal, or was what happened after Jericho Omega supposed to be the Battle Royal winner? And that could be a good question mark there as well, because
yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
conspiracy theorying this, but
Yeah, it's also weird because I've always said my thought on the conspiracy theory after John Moxley's debut there of ultimately there's no doubt in my mind that I think that WWE knew damn well about all of this. They knew
absolutely.
They knew that Moxley was going to AEW, and in all likeliness, they knew AEW was going to TNT before we did. So when they gave Dean Ambrose the flowery emotional exit, they let him. They announced that Ambrose is leaving the company. They let him turn face again abruptly for it. They wrote him out that way, and then they started to say, okay, this is his final match in WWE. We're giving
Right.
Shield final chapter at this house show that we're only going to pay him $500 for, but that's besides the point. And they did all this because ultimately it was down to we're not giving you the satisfaction. We're not going to let you debut John Moxley as your Lex Luger, your Scott Hall, your Kevin Nash, your shot heard round the world.
We're
We're
going to keep his name.
sure that every WWE fan knows that Dean Ambrose is leaving the company so that you don't get to make him a surprise. And once we do this, everyone's going to know Moxley's on the free agent market, and you'll be able to debut him. He'll be a big name, but he's not going to be as big as Luger or Hall were.
I said pretty much verbatim the exact same thing Tuesday.
Yeah.
That they did that because they knew, and they did that on purpose. And there was, everybody, they've never done this before. Why are they doing this? Because they fucking knew what was going to happen, and they took maybe not, obviously not all of the steam, but some of the steam off. And what I said Tuesday was, once the reports were made that Dean Ambrose has said he's not resigning,
Mm-hmm.
they could have just kept him off TV. They didn't. They made sure to keep him on TV and make him a focal point down to that last house show to make sure to drive it home of you just saw him a month ago.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, where's Dean Ambrose for 6 months? It's you literally just saw him.
Yeah.
This was a planned thing because they knew, and instead of hey, just sit at home, we'll pay you your base and your merch, they they did something they don't usually ever do, which is go this route of Dean Ambrose, Dean Ambrose, Dean Ambrose, Dean Ambrose. And here's a live event that we're going to stream. And you brought up the turning face abruptly. Like here's in it. I'm sorry, and if you want to think that's conspiracy theory or not, it just sometimes when things make too much sense,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a conspiracy theory. That's what they did. They
Yeah.
got they got out in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
Of once he said no, I'm out. They got out in front of it and said, okay, be out. Um, you're still under contract, and we're gonna use your contract.
Well, also, there's also the weird thing that just letting someone go home is kind of a weird thing as well when contracts go through, because traditionally in the wrestling business, it was okay, you're out, you're going to be leaving after these ones. okay, for the next 90 days, you're a jobber. You're going to kiss canvas to everybody we want, and we're going to start writing you out of this company on this one and start putting you out to pasture on it.
Right.
That's how things happened in the old days for it. So just having him on TV every week and just losing and going through was just the same as they always did. It's like, okay, you're no longer a going concern. We're putting you out to pasture. And that was a lot of things that the Shield did do on this one, where it was, okay, we're gonna write you out. We're gonna end the Dean Ambrose character from now on. So you can't really say that's a part of it, but everything else basically was, it was like they did all this to make sure that whatever AEW did, they couldn't use them as a shot heard around the world. And that also was kind of weird as well, because if they wanted a shot heard around the world, why didn't they just debut Ty Dillinger without any build-up?
Like, damn, sir.
Yeah, like it wasn't enough that Spears was going to be in the Battle Royal anyway, but why did they have to put that video saying Shawn Spears is signed with AEW and he's in the Battle Royal? Just keep him a secret. And then you get it on the pre-show, and everybody's saying, oh my God. Heck, it also said something that the biggest weight they got them on the card was the Super Smash Brothers, who were, wait a second, that's your ace in the hole. Your shot heard around the world was a very good tag team. Everybody likes the tag team, but they lost all their fizz after they weren't allowed to wrestle in America. So these are your base guys, the Super Smash Brothers. It's like Player Uno and Player Dos are a good deal, but that's not exactly a huge, amazing signing.
I want to touch on something real quick about WWE, Vince in particular, and pettiness. Mm-hmm. Because I've done this before, and Dean missed time with injury. If they would have extended his contract for reasons in the contract that they could for missing time with injury, he couldn't have been at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, but that's also the catch on it, because he was out for about 6 months, so he couldn't have been at Double or Nothing. He couldn't have been at All Out, but he would have been right on the TNT premiere, and that would have been far worse for him than saying, oh, he's in Double or Nothing? Great. He has about 6 months, and then people will just know he's part of the
roster. I get that point. My point was more of the everybody thinks, and sometimes, yes, we all concur, like there's pettiness, an abundance of it, but they could have, and they didn't. They did not do that with him. His contract ran out, and I know there's a lot of misnomers about, if your contract runs out, there's no 90-day compete clause. Mm-hmm. If your contract runs out, you're free to go the very next day and wrestle somewhere on TV.
Yeah.
The 90-day compete clause is for
basically the Dudley Boys debuting an Impact on their first episode as the shot heard around the world, because their contracts expired, so they could do that.
Right. But there, you would, and I'm sure you guys see it too on social media and forums and stuff of everybody, 90 days. No. And a lot of the 90 days is somewhat for the quote unquote independent contractor, where they're still getting paid those 90 days.
Yeah. Basically, the 90 day
to let them find another job.
Yeah, for the 90-day no-compete clauses, basically, we're firing you in 3 months. You can either walk away today and forfeit your next 3 months of paychecks, or we'll pay you those 3 months and you can't work.
Right. A lot of people don't get that.
Yeah. And sometimes the person chooses to say, I'll forfeit those 90 days of paychecks. Just let me out today, like Raven did in 2003.
Yes, and when they do release things, when somebody's released, um, they word it differently on we wish so and so best of luck on their future endeavors versus we have come to terms with the release of so and so.
Mhm.
When they come to terms, like with when they finally came to terms with Neville, Pac, um, that's to me a different thing than we have released so and so and they have to sit out
Yeah.
unless they come to terms.
Yeah.
That's the meaning of come to terms.
Yeah. And even with Neville, it was basically like, I quit. You're still under contract. I said I quit.
Yeah.
We can wait for on this one. Okay. I quit. I'm gone. I'm gone. We still think you're coming back. And it's like, oh, your contract's expired. Well, we can't hold you back anymore. Have a nice life.
Bye, Felicia.
Yep. Which relates to the Sasha Banks thing of new photos of her coming through that she got a tattoo on this one. And interestingly enough, her hair is purple again. So there is that chance that maybe she's willing to come back on it as part of Sasha Watch 2019. Which was also in the same article as the first court case for the guy who attacked Bret Hart, because that was worth for being in the same article as the boss, because every wrestling fan wants the guy who attacked Bret Hart to chop his balls off and die.
You're an angry elf.
Well, we also I think I also heard something about him sucking his own dick.
Nah, that ain't him.
Yeah, but yeah.
What's your overall? I know we don't really do grades or your synopsis, your overall um, coming out of what you did see of Double or Nothing, and I know you've read all the results.
Honestly, I'm giving Double or Nothing on this one a 2 snaps and a Z formation. So,
Oh, son of a bitch!
but yes, this is a good show, and this is what you'd want for a first show. There was nothing objectively stupid on the show. They all looked like they have a plan going forward, and this is what you want to see for it. On a scale of monkey drinking its own piss to 10, I give it a 8.
I don't know that monkey drinking its own piss is pretty funny.
Yeah.
I gave it a letter grade. I gave it a B plus. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'll stick with B plus here.
Yeah.
Well, then Adam and I got to talking about it was a passing grade. I am sorry to anybody, quote unquote, offended. This was not the best fucking thing in the history of the fucking world. Get over it. It
But
was a wrestling show that happened.
this one where I like it better that it wasn't the best thing on the whole world. This wasn't the new wrestling promotion to make everyone's lives worthwhile that everyone thought it was going to be for the last 5 months. It was a very, very good wrestling show. Just like
Yes.
All was a very, very good wrestling show. And honestly, that's enough. You don't need it to be the greatest thing ever. Just as long as it looks like AEW is going to be a very, very good wrestling promotion. That's really all we need.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect, but it's clearly not going to be terrible either. Like, if there was stuff like, all we had as the weaknesses here were nitpicking, but the fact that we can nitpick this show is proof that AEW is going to be just fine. Because, again, it goes to the what have you done for me lately, where it would have been stuff like, well, every match was pretty good and everything worked well and they gave us a big shock, but I really wanted Angelico and Jack Evans to win. AEW sucks. The Elite sold out. And
That's
what would ruin AEW more than anything. This was a show that everybody hoped it was going to be the panacea of pro wrestling, but what we got was a very good show. And that's all we need.
yes. Speaking of the elite, the only elite member that lost was Omega.
Yeah. And even that's going to be a question mark going forward, but ultimately you can see why. I mean, Dustin probably should have lost to Cody. Adam Page, if he was going to be in the Battle Royal, he should have won. The Young Bucks are the AAA champions, and I don't think AAA want their titles changing hands on another.
No, that's happening on Mexican soil.
Yeah, everything made sense, so I'm not willing to say it's going to be, oh, the elite are just going to put themselves over and screw over everybody else yet, because every one of the people who won had a pretty damn good reason to win.
Right.
And
I was just pointing out something that
Yep. Ultimately, it's still the point where we know now that it's not going to be the platonic ideal for any fans, but that's just fine. AEW looks like it's going to be a very good wrestling promotion, and I like that. I don't need to have everything I want right when I want it, right now, to be happy. Just give me a good wrestling promotion, and if you do make a misstep on something like that, I'm going to be willing to give you a little bit of leeway because I'll know most of the stuff is good. I'm fine with that.
Absolutely. And before I get shit on for just giving it a B plus, I'm like that teacher. We've all had at least one of them. They don't give A's.
Yeah. And even then,
like it seldom do I give a show. So a B plus for your first show, is and I'm not trying to be egotistical here, but just in my opinion, like it's a B plus. That's a very high grade to my standards, or not my standards, but
well,
it was a good show.
yeah,
It takes like Wrestle Kingdom 12 and okay, my mark is Wrestle Kingdom 9.
yeah,
Holy fuck, that show is like my highest.
Yeah.
So B plus, I know that. Oh, that's not an A. That's not in my grading. That's very good.
Mhm.
Some stuff here and there, but nitpicking stuff that doesn't reflect the grade. Just B plus.
Yeah. So I guess you'd say it was a solid B plus.
Sure.
But that works on it. We managed to go over 52 minutes without talking WWE, which works because on Raw they went 52 minutes without giving us wrestling. And that is just one of those reasons why, yeah, of course AEW is needed very much right now. But we had so much good things in the first hour of WWE, like, for instance, Brock Lesnar with a boombox, or Dolph Ziggler.
Literally turned the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yes, and of course having a Memorial Day. Yes, and Memorial Day block party by the Usos, and celebrating that this was Natalia's birthday, which more importantly makes this Natalia's birth week. And then we go for more of the problems. Another video, blah blah blah, complete going 52 minutes. 52 minutes. Really, there's no wrestling for 52 minutes. And finally, we get our first match of the night. And it was a big one, as MLW wrestler Lance Anoa'i jumps to WWE after 1 minute 36 seconds. 1 minute 36 seconds of pro wrestling in the first hour of Monday Night Raw.
He lasted longer than I have sometimes.
2 days after Double or Nothing.
Fucking dead silence. Fucking
Yeah.
dead silence.
Yes. 2 days after Double or Nothing happens, you give us no wrestling in the first hour of Monday Night Raw. This is the type of arrogance that killed Nitro. There's no nice way to put it. Nitro was doing no wrestling in the first hour and doing this shit. And this amount of arrogance from them. Are they trying to win?
This much arrogance, they're probably trying to bring back Rick Martel.
Yes. Although I don't think so, because Rick Martel was a very good wrestler even in the Monday Night Wars. And clearly they don't want wrestling in the first hour.
Do not disparage the name of the model Rick Martel, please. Please. That's unacceptable.
Wrestler. That's the thing. Like he was.
Yeah.
He was
I was.
Rick Martel is a great wrestler.
My jokes always fell with you guys. Like always.
Well, we'll never disparage one of the legendary ring rat hunters. So.
Holy fuck. Holy.
Oh, good lord.
I'm not sure if that joke could work since I think that the Ring Rat Hunters videos had less views than we do, so.
That's saying something. Wait,
Yeah.
are we talking about the Rick Martel ones or the Brian Pillman ones?
Both of them, so.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, they probably only really go over with people who are really into various British athletes.
Yes. Well, I don't know. The Fash Gang versus the China White Crew could main event WrestleMania anytime.
Son of a bitch.
We did have that one show on Comedy Central for a while. I'm with Boosie.
Yes.
Oof.
But then we go. But that.
I can't even.
Yes.
I can't even.
After that, we get more of the beatdown as at least even if WWE can't beat AEW, they prove they can beat MLW very well. So that's at least one plus for them, which is nice. Roman. Yeah.
Real quick. And the worst, like it was bad enough. 52 fucking minutes. I watched it live. I don't want to go into detail, but things going on. Excuse me. Wife and son couldn't, so I put on the Hulu cut Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon. They played, and it's cut down to an hour and a half runtime. The entire fucking first 52 minutes.
Really?
Like, yes. Later we'll get to Ricochet and Cesaro. They cut that match. They played that entire first fucking hour.
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm not. I am not.
AEW deserves to win after those things. And then
I wanted to show more. Of course, the Rock stuff because he would find it funny. But I also wanted to show him the Aleister Black Cesaro match that comes late. Nope, it's cut.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically like a main event or superstars that's no longer here but used to be on Hulu. It was like basically like 2 matches, I think maybe 3. That's what it was. Like they played the whole fucking first part, and then we had a couple of matches. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Morris, I'm so sorry. I would have woken you up if I would have known you weren't gonna see the good shit.
Yeah. This probably ties into the fact that right after this we had a promo on it because every wrestling fan should be like Brock Lesnar on this, where They mock the fact that he's ready to say when he's going to have the promo. Heyman reads the contract, and Brock says, "Wait, I got a year?" And says, "You didn't know?" And Lesnar just walks away and says the same point that Brock has a year and he's not even cashing in. So the whole thing you built up this 1 hour for didn't even happen. Vince McMahon, fuck you in 3 very specific ways. So odd, so bad, and wicked bad.
That's 2. Waiting on the 3rd.
Yes. But then we go for random stuff of Carmella and R-Truth showing up for the 24/7 title, and that just happens.
Cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, but on the plus side on this one, we do have a plus here for it. And Metal Matt and I are vindicated. The Iconics are on the best match of the night so far. And
when I say cut like that, that was also cut.
Yes. Exactly.
From the Hulu cut. Like I
Yeah.
watched it live, but like where the fuck is all the good stuff? The fun stuff.
Yep.
Cut.
And then we have a non-title match, of course, but ultimately it was just Becky gets the pin on it by debuting a rock bottom, which I'm not sure if it worked because Peyton didn't jump for that move, so but it was.
And what the fuck is she calling that?
The manhandle slam. Also, which is the former rock bottom, which is viable because if the rumors about the Fast and the Furious matches being gay porn in France are true, The Rock would probably know how to touch a man, so.
Oh, God. Oh, God. God damn.
We don't get any viewers on this one, but controversy and libel are always viable.
Ixnay on the Ibel, we don't want to get sued. You know what happened to Gawker?
Yes. Well, don't worry about it. We'll make sure that we don't have any racist tyrants in our.
I was not here. I was not here.
Yeah.
But God, that fucking finisher. I don't know if it was a combination of how Billy took it and Becky delivered. God, that was awful.
Well, Peyton was the one who took it this time.
I mean, Peyton.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But ultimately, it is the problem where if you're doing the rock bottom on it, the other person has to do the jump, so.
Oh, God, that was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was bad.
Yes. And then we have Lacey Evans doing a little turn on the catwalk as we go back to the block party.
On the catwalk?
I'm taking my shirt off as we speak. Taking my shirt off. I'm too sexy for this.
Yes. And then we go back to the block party, and the Revival are invited by Naomi, who, considering she invites the Revival and hugs Tamina, may be turning heel suddenly in this block party, which is a shame because it's happening on Natalia's birth week. And then we go to another of the cup matches, Ricochet and Cesaro, which was another great match between Ricochet and Cesaro. Naturally, they can't have this, but they can have the Usos and Revival cornholing with each other. That is what they were doing, right?
I believe that's the name of that game.
Yes.
It is. I'm from the South. Cornholing's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also a reference to.
Yes, I know what it's a reference to. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're Rose. Please be the one innocent one in this conversation.
Yeah. Yes, it could definitely.
I'm innocent, but I'm not naive.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely referring to the party game and not hot guys with big cock or Hadoge Sixu, where they grab their fingers around my dick and go ink, ink, ink until they say, "Thanks for the sex, homie." Yes.
They're taking the Uso penitentiary a little too far.
Hey, There's
hold on for a second,
Period.
man. That's taking it a bit too far out there, man.
Yes.
Who,
Well,
me or Granny?
Well, little of both, really. Like
Yeah.
not really like the prison rape is no laughing matter.
yes. Even though
Oh,
it is
it's not.
experience and the guys who say no flips, just fists.
Oh, sweet God! So it just keeps going.
Yes. And then we have a four-way dance of The Miz, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, and Baron Corbin, with the winner getting Rollins at Super Showdown, because of course they couldn't just do Brock Lesnar there. And we get a pretty straightforward match. Was this one cut as well?
No, this is. I think they showed this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the second match they showed.
Yeah. And apparently they randomly pulled out the Strowman and Lashley from the match when they went into the crowd, and Miz keeps going, and we get Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins. Really? Really? Really?
So they are trying to kill the territory.
Yeah. And then we have R-Truth show up to break up their cornholing experience as we have a bunch of roll-ups and everybody runs off for the 24/7 title. But it's okay because we have Firefly Funhouse, the thing everyone prepared for. And so,
Cut.
Yep. Because of course you take
God.
something everybody wants to see out.
Man. Oh.
Yeah. But we do have some more battles between Bray and Paige here, so.
Sir.
Yes.
Apologize right now.
I'm sorry they made the Abby the Witch look exactly like Paige in that video, so. But in defense,
damn
they
it,
have to do something with her if they don't put the Kabuki Warriors on SmackDown, so. And then we get a random thing of trying to make the third hour edgy as we get Sami Zayn in an electric chair. It's not going to shock him, and it's not going to do anything except it probably is nice and emo, so Corey Graves was happy with it. Which probably is the exact reason for it.
Abdul the Butcher did it better.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
what the fuck even was this?
It was basically some claim that Sami Zayn had to tell the truth because he was in an electric chair. But they didn't say that if he didn't tell the truth, he would be shocked. Just, he has to sit in this chair and tell the truth. But it didn't work. And honestly, it does play a problem on this one because it also kind of killed Sami Zayn's gimmick from how the audience questions work, because all the audience questions were pretty straightforward stuff. When you retire, do you miss the ginger snaps from Mixed Match Challenge? How does it feel when Braun Strowman beats you up? Why aren't you winning the Universal Championship? And ultimately, those are the type of things that, quite frankly, a mark would say. And I'm not saying it is a bad thing. Those are all perfectly kayfabe things on it. So if you're having Sami Zayn, who hates the Smarks and wants them to be unhappy, you'd think you'd try and make the Smarks do more smarky questions. And by the end, I think that even
if you're pretending to be, if you're kayfabing an internet troll,
yeah,
that failed. It was working up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're kayfabing as an internet troll to troll internet trolls,
mm-hmm.
what the fuck was this?
Yeah. And honestly,
Because has been
that's one of the things that was weird on this one, because the one plus is it basically turned Sami Zayn to, I'm so bitter that I'm projecting my bitterness on everyone else in the world, which is far better than just screw all you fans and still watch this. And that's a pretty good character for Zayn, so I like it. But at the same time, you could tell that Zayn wanted something meatier from these to really tee off on this stuff. Like, some people say that Zayn dropping the AEW bomb was just him shooting on WWE so he could leave to be booked like a real star or stuff like that. But I honestly think it's like, give me something to work with here. And ultimately, that's the problem of stuff where they have answer questions from the audience. Give something that makes it feel edgy. Something like, why do you hate the Smarks so much? Or what do you think about AEW? Or hell, even give us, how big is Batista's dick?
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it.
Yes. But
For the foreseeable future, I'm going to be booked on Thursday nights.
yeah, that's one of the problems on it, because just remember, the more things that go through, it's just giving me a live mic. So, but then of course, as he said, AEW, we had Seth Rollins and the main event. And was this cut too?
No, they showed this.
Okay, then that's good, because at least it was a good match, because it's Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins. Of course, it's going to be good.
I mean, come on.
Again, I watched it live. I put myself through hell rewatching this the following day on Hulu. But yeah, they kept this on the Hulu cut.
Yeah. Yeah, this was basically one of those where ultimately this was just if we said that the Double or Nothing was an 8 or a B plus, this Raw was picture of monkey drinking his own urine.
Again with that?
Honestly, it works, because this match was the Jet of pro wrestling matches. And as we know, a Jet album would be equivalent to a monkey drinking its own pee.
Oof.
Oh Lord.
Yes. This was just not a good episode. And it's like, are you even trying anymore?
This is where if you're gonna go back to the AEW Double or Nothing, this is where it goes from nitpicking here and there to there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where the good stuff doesn't outweigh the bad.
Yeah.
Am I any sense at all? Am I making
Not
like
absolutely, because ultimately the story that's come out today from Meltzer is that over two hands of people, so over 10 people, are trying to get their release from WWE. And this is at the same time.
He already got it. He was in the fucking Battle Royal.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not talking about Sean Spears?
No. But
okay,
ultimately,
sorry.
It's even worse when you consider that all signs say AEW is at capacity right now. They're not making any more hirings as of right now. So these people are leaving just to leave, even on the forlorn hope maybe AEW would take them. And they probably
they're
wouldn't
leaving
take
under. I just want to leave. I don't give a fuck. Like I just got to go.
Yes, and when you're losing people like Sasha Banks, like Dean Ambrose, you are messing up here. These are the people who should be taking you into the 2020s, and they're walking away because you suck.
And the last thing, and I'm saying this and also asking both your opinions. The last thing AEW should do is sign up a whole bunch of talent,
Yeah.
right?
Well, honestly, it's ultimately it basically depends on how you're going to use that talent. And the big problem on this one would be that AEW could use a lot of the talent in WWE, even if Cody said there's about 8 people they're interested in.
Right, but you don't want to bloat your roster, which is a huge complaint on the WWE side. You
Yeah.
don't want to Tony Khan money just here.
Mhm.
Oh, you want to leave here.
Well,
yeah, then you wind up with something like WCW where they wound up paying Lanny
Ted Turner
Poffo-
money.
yeah.
They wound up paying Lanny Poffo 6 figures, even though they were planning on. I think they were planning on giving him the Gorgeous George gimmick.
Well, yeah, that was pretty interesting because they wanted to make Lanny Poffo the Gorgeous George, and so they hired the Maestro because he had the rights to the gimmick, and then they also hire Randy Savage's girlfriend at the time and give her the gimmick, so they just pay Lanny Poffo to do nothing.
Nice work if you get it.
It goes back into the old saying of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Just because you can pay these people doesn't mean you should.
Well, it's
Like,
not even just
they're
that.
going to have to be very.
Your accountants spent so much time asking and considering whether they could that they didn't think of whether they should.
Well, on the plus side, it is the guy who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, so it's not like they'll pay people who are worthy anyway. So there's that.
And as a Houston Texan fanatic, fuck the Jaguars. And for those that don't get the reference, they play in the AFC South with my Texans. So fuck you, Jacksonville. Fuck you.
Basically, that's something to keep in mind here for the Khan family not doing this. They're willing to pay Blaine Gabbert money. There's no reason they can pay any wrestler of any acclaim the same money. But ultimately, the problem is that isn't just they can't have the value. If you have good talent, that's what you need in this business. The problem is that you have people like, for instance, say Tyler Breeze. He'd be a very good comedy mid-carder for the show and would be a benefit to him. But comedy mid-carder wouldn't be enough, and the fans would say, but we want Tyler Breeze as the world champion! You promised you would make all the good, undowntrodden workers in WWE World Champion! You gotta give him the world title, and you lied to us! That means you're sellouts! And that's really the problem. Because it's not just they could use the talent. AEW can always use more good workers. You can never have too many good workers on your roster. But you've got to be willing to accept.
But you can.
The ultimate thing is saying that, okay, not everyone gets to be the world champion. And this was some stuff before on him where, yes, Sami Zayn is very good, but with his gimmick, he's probably never going to be a face again with this gimmick. It's gone to a level where you can't just say, sorry, I like the fans again. And so as a result...
you mean exactly what they did a couple months ago with Dean?
Well, Dean Ambrose was ultimately the...
You bring up...
Dean Ambrose was basically...
You brought up Joe Noya's cancer.
Yeah.
Like, that's not just heel heat. That's fuck you heat. And they... Oh, he's a face now.
Yeah.
They literally did that.
Yeah. But it's still at the point where not everyone gets to have that flowery emotional moment at WrestleMania where they hold the world title aloft. Pyro and confetti going on around.
Oh.
Cold.
Yeah.
And crying tears of joy. Their boyhood dream has finally come true. Not everyone gets to have that moment. And if everybody...
Becky literally just had that moment where she shat all over the fans.
Yeah.
They dropped it the very next week, but you guys have never supported me they realized their fucking mistake, obviously, and then went on to win both titles at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They literally just did that with Becky.
Yeah, that's fair, but ultimately that's the point because, yes, Becky Lynch got that moment because she got to the point where she deserved it. If, on the other hand, you had a case where Billie Kay won the women's title at WrestleMania and had the same result on this one, it would be like, yeah, maybe I'd be a little happy to see it, but no, she doesn't deserve that moment. Not everybody should have that moment.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But you would be a little, to use your words, a little more than happy.
Well, yeah.
Like, sir, you're
I'm very happy on that one. I admit how cold my tea is there, so that's not a problem. But ultimately,
your house would need hazmat suits to come in and clean up.
Yes, but ultimately, that's the point. Not everybody gets to have that moment, and if everybody did get to have that moment, then
it'd be meaningless
to have this moment.
Yeah, it would mean nothing if everybody was there. It'd mean nothing.
Yeah, it's the simple fact. If everybody has something, then no one does. And ultimately, that has to be kept in mind as well, where, yes, you can get it for Becky Lynch on it, but maybe that means Sasha Banks never gets that moment. And that's fine, because not everyone gets to make it to the top. Pro wrestling is the one sport where, for someone to succeed, another person has to agree to fail. That's what pro wrestling is about. It's the whole thing where sometimes there's a beauty in pushing this other person up to the top of the mountain, even if it means you'll never get to the top of the mountain yourself. And that has to be remembered if AEW is going to sign a lot of WWE guys, because not everyone should get to the top of the mountain. It'd be nice to see it, but ultimately not everyone can, and not everyone should.
Right, exactly. And not everybody, when you sign a contract, I'm going to use Cody in this case, as a Triple H or Vince, or I guess I could use Tony Khan. Like, hey, here's your contract. Sign your contract. Oh, here's a championship. That's not how it fucking works.
Yeah. And that was one of the problems with Ring of Honor for so long, that they had so much of sign this contract, you're the next world champion.
Yes.
And it was the weakness even with Triple H on this one, because he did go with the, I'll stay with WCW, but you've got to make me the world champion. And that was a thing that, even if you ignore the fact that he was a main eventer before he started dating Stephanie, he was the first guy to get a world title written into his contract, is a bigger black mark than he's married Stephanie for his world title stuff.
Yeah, and people either A, don't know that, or forget that. That was in his contract. I know, he's only in the position he got put in because he started dating Steph and ended up marrying Steph. He actually, when he came over, had that in his contract. No specific date or time, just like a future world champion.
Well, it wasn't even when he came over. It was basically for WCW and WWF, and that's how WWF got to keep him.
Re-upped, not came over. Yeah. When he re-upped, he put that in his contract. Mm-hmm. Paul Levesque is he's a better businessman and smarter outside of the ring than an in-ring worker, and I know a lot of people hate his in-ring stuff, and I like both. But Paul is a very intelligent person.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Even his in-ring work was one of the examples, because it's not his fault. He was one of the best power wrestlers in North America at a time when power wrestling was at its nadir and being valuable. Like if you
Yes.
put Triple H in 1997 in 2019, that guy would be Michael Elgin, only better. That's because that was how good
And not,
he was in 97 on it. Until he got injured, he was one of the best power guys in the world.
yes.
Yeah,
And yes, we can speculate on steroids and yada yada yada. But dude was good.
Yeah,
Dude can still put on a halfway, with barely 2 working legs,
yeah,
and his age can still put on. And this goes back to the AEW thing. Recap. The storytelling.
yeah,
Yeah, it's slow and plotting. That's a Triple H match.
yeah. And ultimately, Triple H has been, for the last 10 to 15 years, he's still in the levels of when a guy's losing their touch. It's been 10 or so years now, and Triple H is still firmly in the I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was level. And that is damn good.
And what separates him from some of the others,
What?
in my opinion, he knows that.
Yeah. And he
He
knows
he
there's certain levels of when you're losing it, your touch. There's the I'm starting to lose a step and I know it even if they don't know it. And there's the okay, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was level. And then there's the I've got one good match left in me and that's it level. And then there's the I don't have any good matches left in me, but I can at least get some people to pop if I do my big spots and can just
Right.
do that.
the warm body approach.
Nothing left. Yeah. And Triple H is still in he's not going to be able to give you 300 nights a year, but every so often at a show like Super Showdown, even if it's in the progressive city of Jeddah, Orton versus Triple H is probably going to be really good.
It's Orton, if nothing else, it's Orton Triple H.
Yeah.
And they're both a lot older, but and that's a good this match, particularly talking about Paul. Randy Orton also gets that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not a 18-year-old, 19-year-old up and comer anymore. I'm old. My body's been through hell. I can work a match. I can tell a story in the ring. So yeah, that's probably going to be a good match.
Yeah, and back to the Dustin Rhodes thing, because having someone like Dustin Rhodes can only help AEW because most of their guys are spot monkeys. They're guys who, once they can't do the spots anymore, you have to wonder if they'll still have anything left. And with some guys aging a little bit more, that's going to be a question mark because will Kenny Omega be able to do these great matches into his 40s? Will the Bucks be able to do these great matches into their 40s? And if you don't have someone who can teach you how to change up your game so you can still be good, then it's going to be a big problem.
I agree, because and that, I guess, the quads and knees and stuff aside for freak accidents, Randy Orton and Triple H are very much in tune and grounded with their wrestling. So they're not we've all seen the bloody matches and the hardcore and the Hell in the Cells. But that even then they're not taking giant risk with A, their life, B, their career.
Yeah. And just the last time that Orton was in Hell in a Cell is a good example. He didn't need to go off the cell like they did in 1998 when Undertaker threw Mankind off Hell in a Cell and he plummeted 16 feet through an announce table for that. He could get as much people to think this guy is the devil just by twisting Jeff Hardy's ear gauge. That's intelligence for you. It was perfectly safe spot. Probably didn't hurt Jeff Hardy or anything, but it looked so evil and so gruesome that it worked even better than a big spot.
On the flip side of that, the other person in that match, Jeff Hardy, has done those spots where he's younger than Orton and his body's shot.
Yeah. And that's ultimately the case where it's not just about spots. You have to be able to tell a story in the ring.
That's, yeah. And Triple H and Orton, the point, what started this was the Triple H thing. Triple H, Paul definitely can. Orton definitely can. So the two of them facing each other, and I'm sure it's going to be shit upon because it's Randy Orton and Triple H, and because it's going to be a do I say slow moving here?
Mm-hmm. Well, it would help on this one because it's just going to be a Triple H Randy Orton match in the progressive city of Jeddah, and of course, with all the information about going to Saudi Arabia for this match, you have the case where WWE is having a lot of big problems with working with reprehensible companies or countries for this. So now WWE has to go further with that by going into business with Nestle. Sponsored by Nestle Water, NESTLES. Nestle makes the very best formula that they hook African women on so that they stop making breast milk and have to buy more of it and mix it with tainted water to kill a bunch of children. But I don't think that a sad dog can say that the same way.
Yeah. So yeah, some of the matches for that one, other than of course the Triple H versus Randy Orton one, are the 50-man battle royal, Goldberg versus The Undertaker, which is probably one of the big money matches.
You think?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is actually kind of surprising. Finn Balor versus Andrade.
Yes. That's almost weird on this one, especially since I think that Andrade, like a lot of Mexican wrestlers, does use Christian imagery on it. And I think that's why Aleister Black was banned from the show because of his satanic tattoos. And I know at Greatest Royal Rumble, they were angry from all the people that had cross tattoos. So
right.
Then you have Roman Reigns, Shane McMahon, Kofi Kingston, Seth Rollins versus Baron.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I mean, I already loved you, but
yeah. And of course, Lars Sullivan beats up 3 Mexican people, or maybe not all Mexicans. Lince Dorado is Puerto Rican, and Kalisto is from Chicago. So,
yeah.
But Lars Sullivan beats up 3 people that Lars Sullivan would probably want to beat up.
And yeah, like apart from the Andrade thing, I was kind of surprised that Finn Balor is going to be in this.
Yeah, I think that Balor is weird on it because Balor makes sure that Balor Club is for everyone, and Saudi Arabia makes sure that no, that is not the case. Although it is similar to most of the ways in the American one, because as gay marriage and marijuana legalization work, it's just part of the Bible that said, "He who lies with another man must be stoned." So,
other people who are also not going to be at the event are John Cena and Daniel Bryan, which is the same as Crown Jewel. Sami Zayn, who had not been authorized to compete at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and he decided not to participate at Super Showdown.
Yeah. A lot of times Zayn does go through because he's of Syrian descent, and Saudi Arabia really, really does not like Syria.
Right.
There's a misnomer real quick that Sammy's quote unquote not allowed in the country, and that's not true.
Right. Well,
He chooses not to.
I didn't think they meant. Now that I think about it, I don't think it meant like not allowed. Like, I don't think they meant not allowed to be in the country. I think they said that, yeah, we're not going to have you on the card.
Oh, and I wasn't.
From what it says was at Greatest Royal Rumble, they wouldn't allow him on the card because he was Syrian. He was injured at Crown Jewel, and he's declined to participate in Super Showdown.
Right.
And so Kevin Owens isn't as well. And apparently Black was doing it because one of his tattoos depicts Lilith, and he referred to her as the first woman to rebel against Paradise. The reason she's there for equality for every man and woman, which is the most important thing there is. You can tell why Saudi Arabia would not like that. And
I just wanted to throw that out there about Sammy and
right. Yeah.
forums and tweets and stuff. Well, Sammy can't go. He can. Like, it's not.
Yeah. Like, either he doesn't want to, or I think in the case of Greatest Royal Rumble, WWE didn't want him to.
Yeah. Obviously, like, there's like safety reasons and stuff and what have you, but it's not like illegal, if you will, for Sammy to enter the country.
Yeah. Though given the fact that at Greatest Royal Rumble, they also had that moment where the Davaris got beaten up by a bunch of Saudi Arabian people. So just to have Saudi Arabia beat up Iranians, that's probably a good sign that maybe they didn't want that. And that was when...
Are we going to bring up the fact that the Iranians got death threats?
Yes.
For showing up?
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, that
they did.
Mm-hmm.
And in other WWE news...
please get us out of this subject.
They had a cross-promotional thing with WXWC4, which is the successor promotion to World Extreme Wrestling, which was had been run by the Wild Samoans, and it was a fundraiser for Samu Anoa'i. And the reason I bring this up in particular, in addition to this being a significant charity event, is that the way that WWE phrased it on Twitter, and I quote, "Sports entertainment enthusiasts in Allentown, Pennsylvania are in for an incredible treat this Wednesday night."
Mm-hmm. Why do you think they used that moment? And incidentally, it also may tie into the first match of the show on this one, because Lance Anoa'i is Samu Anoa'i's son, so WWE did pay him back as well in that regard as instantly. So
right.
I just want to do a shout out for my other podcast, VWP Violent Wrestling Podcast. We've been talking about the show for 3 weeks and been promoting anybody in the area, go see it, stuff like that. Anyway, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's definitely a good cause on this one. So definitely. Plus, I think that judging by how most of the Islander wrestlers believe everybody's family, I think working this show officially put Samoa Joe into the Anoa'i wrestling dynasty.
Wrestlers from a whole bunch of promotions showed up for this charity event.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Roche is referring to is the Samoa Joe subtweet.
Yeah.
But he wrestled the show. A whole bunch of WWE superstars. You could buy a gold, I think they called it a gold pass, where you could do meet and greets with everybody. If you paid like $50 or $75 or something, and you could do meet and greets with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was definitely a very good show for a very good cause, because one plus about wrestling, we always remember you after you're gone. You're never going to be out of the family. And going from these ones into SmackDown this week, we have,
Do we have to?
well, luckily,
We already did Raw, so
yeah. He's Kevin Owens shows
I
up.
should
We have,
transverse that. Do we have to talk about Raw? Can we talk about SmackDown?
yeah. Kofi Kingston fights Kevin Owens and gets a nice long match there. So this might be the blow off for. Oh God, don't make this the blow off for Kofi versus Owens. We don't want Dolph Ziggler in the running. And ultimately that's some of the same things where Kofi does get vaguely the win, but Owens loses after 2 frog splashes and a swanton. So it was basically Kofi got the win, and Kevin Owens basically got his payment for not working at Super Showdown. Meanwhile, R-Truth is still trying to defend the European title while fighting Carmella and evade Drake Maverick with his wanted posters, which is a lot better than peeing his pants. So. And ultimately, it's better for 205 Live because they won't have the issue of him using a giant drill to drill straight into hell. So that's all.
well, he's gotta get that global diet pill pyramid scheme going somehow.
Exactly, and it's the way for AOP to come back. So
Whatever Jeff Jarrett did with the GFW scheme, do the opposite of that. You'll succeed.
I don't know. He was doing what every dumb person in the 2000s was going for in the buy gold situation. And then we have Daniel Bryan and Rowan actually show up as tag team champions for a while and say that the SmackDown tag team division is a joke. I love shoot comments that aren't meant to be shoot comments. And
They should have said the Raw Tag Team Championships were a joke. That would have been more shoot than saying SmackDown.
Well, considering that the people who attacked Bryan and Rowan were heavy machinery, it made pretty much sense for it.
Pretty lady.
Like I said, this is what they should.
I went full greeny. I went full greeny on that one.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the pluses where this should have been the WrestleMania match. Daniel Bryan versus Otis. If Daniel Bryan wins, Otis. If Otis wins, he gets Daniel Bryan's pretty lady.
No, if Otis wins, he gets to eat Daniel Bryan. Like meat's meat, damn it. You're hungry enough, and
I think that just because Daniel Bryan
it's kind of
to rent affairs does not mean that Otis is Daniel Bryan.
Son of a bitch.
Yes. Worse when this promo's about Oklahoma's fracking problem. And then it's ultimately going to be interesting to see if Heavy Machinery can do this one because at least they're a fun team and takes them out of the 24/7 battle. And then from there we have Sonya Deville hyping up Mandy Rose on the cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine and getting into a feud with Ember Moon because she likes to actually read books. And so you know that.
And somehow got into a feud online with Carmella?
Honestly, that's the problem on it because the Carmella Mandy Rose feud would be so much better if they just had what everybody wants. Have Sonya realize, wait a minute, R-Truth's there. I can go after the 24/7 title. That would be.
And we all know the first step to the U.S. champion.
Yes.
From experience, you have to pin Liv or Carmella.
Yep, exactly. But that's what you need to see on this one because having a woman going after the 24/7 title would help things a lot to say, yes, it's possible for a woman to go after this title. And then while it happens instead, Jinder Mahal jumps him, throws out. Drake Maverick finally gets his hands on him. And then we go to Alistair.
He didn't pee on him? He didn't pee on him?
I
No
think
buys.
this ain't
No
gonna
pee, no buys.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, that's the problem because this is Drake Maverick, not R. Kelly. So
God damn, why? Why did I set myself up for that?
yes. But then we have Aleister Black cutting a promo, and we have Shane McMahon, Elias, and Drew McIntyre. Yawn. And we have a highlight package of Shane McMahon praising Kevin Dunn for the video and telling fans not to boo him. And we have more of it, the fight for our truth in Drake Maverick. And finally, at long last, Elias is a champion in WWE.
Your first championship. Here you go.
Yeah. It may be the 24/7 title, but you know what? Elias deserves a title reign after the last 2 years. Sometimes the guy just deserves to say he was a champion and be in history. And even if it's nothing like that, it's perfectly good there.
I get it, and I support it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it would have been a different championship of some caliber, but
just
Elias being, and I've said this Tuesday, or maybe it was yesterday. Elias getting a championship, his first championship in WWE. I'm here for it. I don't give a fuck. You know what it.
Yeah.
Call it the Elias championship. Like, I don't care. Like, Elias, I love Elias. I have, when people didn't, when he was still a newcomer to NXT, I walked with Elias when people shat all over Elias. Samson.
Yeah.
I walked with him. Like, I love Elias. So if this is your first, hopefully not your last championship, like, I'm here for it.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's some of the point on it. And heck, it even helps NXT because if you think, but NXT guys need to have their title reign, give Tyler Breeze a 24/7 title reign. I mean, it's the one title that once you do that, pretty much every big name out of NXT will have held at least one title in WWE, except Renzo and Cass. But that's only because they're fuckheads.
Oh, they own a title, sir. It's just not a championship belt thing. They each have titles. Trust me, they have titles.
Yes, but ultimately that's an important thing where if you just say that, everybody will go down in history, that's a good thing. And then you have Charlotte 1 and Charlotte 2 sipping tea and fighting Becky Lynch and Bayley on the promos. Which leads to Bayley versus Lacey Evans and goes through straightforward, normal match. And Bayley gets a roll up and beats Lacey Evans. So, is what it is. Then Lacey and Charlotte argue. What is it with Charlotte drinking tea with people and then they go after her?
That was straight up like everybody's seen the meme of Spider-Man versus Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That was straight up like, who's who? Like, which one's Charlotte? Which one's Lacey?
Meanwhile, Finn Balor says
the question and see how they answer it.
Meanwhile, Finn Balor says he was banged up in Money in the Bank, and that's why he didn't get to perform last week. So he did want to be in Rhode Island, people, which is one of the few times someone would say that. So
everybody else trying to get out.
Then coming up next on stage, Andrade.
Yes. And Andrade does prepare to say he's going to take it hard to that other handsome man with great abs at Super Showdown, which will be better than WrestleMania. And then we get the Firefly Funhouse again, which works because, again, Kabuki Warriors weren't on the show on this one, so they have to get Paige on somehow, so.
Son of a bitch.
Well, she
You know Craig hates you, right?
I accept that, yes.
I doubt he listens, but
Yes.
just
Again,
he can probably hear the echoes.
cat.
He
So,
hates you.
yes. Trust me, my tea is quite cold for Paige as well, so it's just an easy joke there. And then
when your tea's gone cold, I wonder why I got out of bed at all.
exactly. And then we have Roman Reigns and R-Truth versus Elias and Drew McIntyre with the 24/7 rules suspended, and they jump Truth, so it doesn't matter. But you'd think they'd jump Roman Reigns instead to weaken him up. I mean, you can probably beat R-Truth pretty easily. So,
You think?
yeah. Roman keeps going. He attacks him. He gets to be super. He finishes Elias. And then afterwards, he spears Elias again and tells Truth, pin him. And R-Truth is the first two-time 24/7 champion.
Two-time.
Yes. And ultimately, it goes through on it where it is one of the weaknesses because if you're doing the 24/7 thing, it would just be interesting to say, okay, 24/7, we're just going to have R-Truth hold it and never lose it. Because if you're getting everything else wrong, why not? I mean, you have a show where of four matches, 2 of them ended in roll-ups, so there's also a problem there.
Yeah, that was a roll-up finishes work to a big degree, time to time. Not in either one of these instances. Maybe the first one, but roll-up finishes are supposed to be
Well,
what's the word I'm looking for?
Finish. In kayfabe, it's supposed to be if you finish someone with your finisher, that's decisive. You win them with a roll-up, it's clear that this was an upset. You got lucky here.
Yeah, and that roll-up finishes aren't seen that way anymore, and that's
yeah, and it's worse that it's both the women's matches that happen because the women's revolution is supposed to get us away from the random roll-up finish because of it. Like roll-up finishes bring to mind the Kelly era of women's wrestling, where it's just
now that's your most egregious thing you've said all night, sir.
Good.
Well, if you think about it, when she was the champion, it was basically gets beaten up, wins with a roll-up, repeat for a few weeks until she loses. And that's not how you make a good champion. You have to have them win decisively sometimes.
Every once in a while it would be nice.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while a roll-up works.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Every once in a while the roll-up works.
Carmella,
was Kelly's finisher the roll-up? Like that's when I get out of the...
I think that was John Cena's finisher when he first came to WWE.
Oh, son of a...
No, I think Cena was similar on this one. I know Daniel Bryan used the finisher of the small package, but then Seth Rollins stole it from him, so...
Holy fuck. With that note, I have a couple of patients I have to,
okay.
When I say patients, my wife and son. I need to check on.
For the NXT show in the progressive and great city of Bridgeport this week, we have Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, 1-2 versus Street Profits versus Undisputed Era versus Forgotten Sons, Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze, and Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong. We'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Thomas S.K. Green. With me is John Roche, and with us is John Doe.
Sure.
Well, it's just
jackass.
Well, it's protecting you from these things as well. So, but
I'm not paid enough to.
Yeah, for Prince
somebody.
As this is.
Are we paid? Like, should we set up a Patreon or whatever? Would anyone
I
even
don't
donate?
know on this one. I think I may have had a Patreon, but unfortunately, that's for the things that can never be said in these ones.
Okay.
BlueChew.com, motherfuckers.
Yes. Have a good night.
Peace.
Have a good night.